Happy Friday, June 7th, everyone. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. We have a lot to unpack in today's video, including in the short term with extreme heat and more severe weather to talk about in a lot of the same areas. And then we're going to look at the weather pattern next week into the middle of June, which does include Father's Day weekend with your temperatures, precipitation, and any severe weather chances there, and looking at the tropical weather update later on in the video. So if you are new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel down below. We do daily weather forecasts across southern Canada, the United States, and the tropics on this channel throughout the year. Also, if you do enjoy today's weather forecast after the video, make sure to press the like button down below. Also, leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. We'll get to those later on today. So more heat headlines continue across the desert Southwest in the orange. Those are heat advisories in the pink. Those are excessive heat warnings, and even some heat advisories down here into the Miami, Fort Lauderdale area into southeast Florida as well. So still pretty hot down in southern Florida, and it's all because of this very strong ridge of high pressure. We have that centered across Texas into New Mexico and the desert Southwest, and that is the driving force behind why we see all the extreme heat over the last couple of days and why we will continue to see it through the day. So here we go through the morning. You can see temperatures already into the 60s and 70s across the southern plains, near the Gulf Coast, up through the southeast coast, and then back here towards the desert Southwest. Very comfortable conditions starting the day across the north. So if you live in the northern plains, the upper Midwest, Great Lakes region, or even the northern Rockies, you're waking up to pleasant temperatures this morning. As we go into the afternoon, look at the heat is back on across portions of the central and southern plains, near the Gulf Coast again, including the southeast coast, and then the desert Southwest here, 105 in Phoenix, 100 degrees in the portions of Las Vegas today, and 100 down here just outside of the Los Angeles area there towards San Diego. So a very hot day across portions of the desert Southwest. And when you factor in the heat index, it's going to feel like the triple digits across parts of Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana today, maybe even parts of western Arkansas. Some triple digit heat back here into the southern Four Corners region of New Mexico, Arizona, southern Nevada, and into portions of California. So a lot of areas there. And then further east, Florida, it's going to be very hot. Triple digit heat there with your heat index this afternoon. We are continuing to watch, though, the severe weather chances through the day, as there has been an upgrade to a level 3 out of 5, an enhanced risk of severe weather here across portions of eastern Nebraska, northeast Kansas, and extreme northwestern portions there of Missouri, with a slight risk extending back into the northern Texas Panhandle, Oklahoma Panhandle, and southwestern Kansas here. We do have also an unusual area with a marginal risk of severe weather back towards Salt Lake City here into even northeastern Nevada, southern Idaho, southwestern Wyoming, and northwest Colorado. Something to watch back there as well. With looking at the potential of what these storms could bring, we could be seeing wind gusts over 75 miles per hour wherever you see these dashed shaded lines. This includes the Lincoln area back down toward Kansas City, so we'll be keeping a close eye on that. We also have the threat for significant hail there in central Nebraska, far southern South Dakota, and northern Kansas. That would be your hen egg size hailstones or larger, that is 2-inch in diameter or larger, and a few tornadoes cannot be ruled out. We have a 2% shading within a 25-mile radius there into the green, and then a 5% in the brown there into north central Nebraska. So let's look at the setup here. We have the moisture pluming all the way up there into the northern and central plains. Dew points are in the 50s and 60s this afternoon and evening. That will contribute to not overly high instability values, but enough for severe weather on the northern periphery of this instability plume. Instability values over 2,000 joules per kilogram. And we also have to watch the turning of the winds with height. Here's your significant tornado parameter this afternoon. Notice the values are pretty low, around 4 out of 10, but watch them increase, especially there into portions of Nebraska and Kansas as we go in towards the evening hours, out of an 8, maybe even a 9 out of 10 here. So we're going to be watching that very closely. So looking here at the afternoon, we have some elevated thunderstorm and shower activity across southeastern South Dakota into northwest Iowa. This will likely be elevated in nature, so we are not concerned about much in the way of severe weather with this, other than maybe a hail threat. Watching back here in northern Nebraska, look at these blips showing up, these little isolated showers and storms. They will grow upscale into bigger supercells as they tap into more of that instability further to the south, as they move toward Lincoln, the Omaha area, and down here toward Topeka and even Kansas City later on this evening. And you can see as they move further east, though, into Missouri, into Iowa, and western Illinois early Saturday morning as a cluster, or what we call a mesoscale convective system, we do see those start to weaken as they outrun the better instability, and the instability starts to weaken with further eastward extent into early Saturday morning. Going into the weekend here, Saturday, June 8th and Sunday, June 9th, the ridge continues strong to flex its muscles across the country. We have a trough across the Great Lakes and the Northeast, bringing more cooler, more refreshing air across the northern and northeastern United States. And you can see that perfectly here on the temperature anomaly map from southern Canada. Beautiful temperatures up here, even though they're below normal. It's June, folks, so it's wonderful temperatures for highs there this weekend. The northern and northeastern U.S. enjoy that as well. The heat, though, is out across the west like it is today. That will continue this weekend and extending further east through the southern plains into the Red River Valley here into Oklahoma and Texas, through the lower Mississippi Valley and the southeast coast. And yes, Florida is going to be hot again as we go into the weekend. So looking here at Saturday morning, look at that. Already mid-70s down here, places like Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We will heat up into the middle and upper 90s in those areas. 96 in Tulsa there Saturday afternoon, 97 in Oklahoma City, 102 in Amarillo, 96 there in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. You factor in the heat index readings, and you can see heat indexes from Tulsa back towards the Lawton, Fort Sill area into Oklahoma City, Wichita Falls, Texarkana, Shreveport, you name it, Houston, Lake Charles. A lot of these areas will be over 100 degrees Fahrenheit Saturday afternoon. And as we go into Sunday, rinse and repeat, starting off in the 70s again. More heat, maybe just a touch cooler across these areas with a little bit of some outflow from the thunderstorm Saturday evening that we'll talk about here momentarily. You can see heat indexes as we go into Sunday afternoon are still around triple digits across much of the deep south here. So again, make sure to stay hydrated this weekend if you are working outdoors, or if you venture outdoors, make sure to find frequent breaks in the shade or an air-conditioned room with this heat. And we do have storm potential. So as the heat builds, we're going to have more chances for severe weather in a lot of the same areas that we've been seeing the last couple of weeks. We have marginal risk from the front range back here into portions of the Missouri Ozarks and the southern plains. And then we go into Sunday and you can see that's more into the Rockies and into the Texas Panhandle. So why are we seeing this? On Saturday, instability going to be pretty high. You can see the yellows, oranges, and reds here. That's over 3,000 joules per kilogram up here into parts of the middle of the country. And you can see Saturday afternoon, we have isolated storm coverage across Kansas, across Missouri here, more clusters of storms moving through. So places like, again, Kansas City and Topeka, Wichita, back toward Dodge City, over here into the Springfield, Jefferson City, and St. Louis areas. That's going to be the corridor of some stronger storm potential on your Saturday afternoon and evening. Sunday, that gets a little bit further south as we have outflow boundaries, shifting that boundary a little further south. Still those yellows and oranges, 2,000 to 3,000 joules per kilogram of instability. And again, note the coverage here on Sunday. Pretty isolated, pretty scattered as well. So not everybody is going to experience a severe thunderstorm, but if you do get under one of those, damaging winds, hail, and a couple tornadoes will be possible. From now through the weekend, this is your rainfall amounts, and you can see across the middle of the country here, what we call the Corn Belt. That is where we're going to be seeing a lot of our rainfall across the Nebraska region, into Kansas, eastern Colorado, into Oklahoma here, the Texas Panhandle, back especially through much of the state of Missouri, downstate Illinois, and then trickling over there into western Kentucky and Tennessee. So we could see rainfall totals there really centered across eastern Kansas and Missouri, and the oranges and reds there of around 2 to 4 inches of rain through Sunday night. As we go into next week, Monday, June 10th through Friday, June 14th, there's the ridge. Again, you still notice it's further off to the west, but it is starting to move further east with time, and our trough is beginning to become a little bit weaker as we go into the northeast U.S. through next week. So you can see, while we do start the week with below normal temperatures across the east and above normal temperatures out west, I do think this above normal temperatures will be shifting closer toward the Mississippi Mississippi Valley region the later we get through next week. So let's show you that here on Monday, June 10th. Here's the heat. We definitely see that here, the boundary from Saturday and Sunday shifting further south with those thunderstorms we were just talking about. And then you can see that is going to shift the heat a little further south and not be as intense. That will build back north as we go into Wednesday. See all the heat out west that's going to start to shift toward the Mississippi River or thereabouts as we go into the middle of the week. And then as we go to the end of the week there on Friday, June 14th, we're going to see a lot more 80s and 90s. But still, if you live in the upper Midwest, like the Dakotas, into Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, still pleasant temperatures later next week on Friday into the 60s and 70s for highs. Let's go through the week with the precipitation. On Monday, watching a low pressure system out here in the Rockies could bring us some showers and storms across the Dakotas, Nebraska with a cold front again as we go into Tuesday. Over top of that ridge, we don't have a lot of instability in this region, so I'm not too concerned for widespread severe weather, but I suppose an isolated stronger storm will be possible. Again, it is June, so you can't rule that out. And as we go into Wednesday, more showers and storms possible, and then that moves off further to the east on Thursday, and it really just becomes a Gulf Coast and Florida ordeal as we go into Thursday and Friday with a lot of tropical moisture from the Gulf Coast as we go into that time frame. So you can see that. Look at that. Florida, we're in drought. Yes, we need the rain and we're going to get it. Hopefully not all at once. It looks like a lot of the state there are going to be seeing over 2, 3, 4 inches of rain. Same thing down here near the Gulf Coast. That could extend back into the same areas that have seen rain over the last few days and few weeks across Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana. And then a secondary area up here again, like we mentioned, the Dakotas, Nebraska, Minnesota, northern Wisconsin could get a couple inches of rain through next week here, kind of spread out through the week. As we go into Father's Day weekend, Saturday, June 15th, and Father's Day itself on Sunday, June 16th, the ridge is now centered across portions of the Mississippi Valley, and we have to watch this trough entering in to the Pacific Northwest. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But all the heat we've been seeing across the west into the Rockies, in the middle of the country, and the plains, will be shifting further east toward the Midwest, Great Lakes, and Ohio Valley as we go into Father's Day weekend. You can see on Saturday, here is the heat. These are preliminary numbers. These will change as this is still several days away, but you can get an idea of what your temperatures could be. A lot of 80s and 90s down here underneath that ridge, and then a very sharp temperature gradient here on the northern periphery of this ridge, where we're going to have a lot of convection, a lot of thunderstorm activity Father's Day weekend that could be severe, tapping into a lot of the instability that we see building up with the heat here. So let's look at that jet stream, shall we? So let's look here at the trough across the Pacific Northwest. Like we mentioned, Father's Day itself, we're going to have a lot of strong winds in the jet stream over top of that ridge, right? That will continue into the following week, Monday, June 17th through Friday, June 21st here. I know we're getting a little further out now, but there's a lot of confidence in this pattern as the models, the ensembles have been showing this over the past few days, and you can see that Father's Day itself, look at all the instability. This is the probability of CAPE, your convective available potential energy, over 1,000 joules per kilogram, and you can see that really building up there in the plains in toward the Midwest there, and that really continues and becomes more widespread in coverage through much of next week, from Monday, June 17th through Friday, June 21st, into that third week or so of June, across much of the plains, into the Mississippi Valley there and the Ohio Valley, and even nosing its way up into the upper Midwest and Great Lakes region as we get into that time. So as instability increases, as the wind shear increases, of course the severe weather chances will be increasing through that June 15th through Father's Day weekend, starting there, and then going through the 21st time frame through that Friday, the 21st of June. In the red, you have the best potential for severe weather up here in the upper Midwest, into the portions of the lower Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and the Great Lakes region. In the orange, it's still possible. You have a medium chance. And then, of course, outside of that area, underneath that ridge, you can still see a couple of showers and storms. If your convective temperature is reached, then we could see a thunderstorm that could become severe because of all the heat out there. So we have a low potential of that. Turning now to the tropical weather update, the National Hurricane Center continues to highlight this area with no interest at all, with 7 days. The next 7 days, we don't really have anything to talk about. Same thing there in the Eastern Pacific. While with that said, there are some hints now as we get deeper into the second half of June that there are some probabilities toward the Yucatan, towards Central America here, and toward the Western Caribbean that we may have to watch for potentially a tropical depression formation, or at least a very diffuse tropical cyclone trying to develop here. We have very warm waters in the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean. Also watching watching to see if we have a cold front that moves through the Carolinas, Georgia, or North Florida. If we get a cold front to hang up there near the southeast coast, something could brew up there to the third week or the last week of June. We'll have to keep a very close eye on that. I know today's video was long. We had a lot to get to. That's a lot to do, you know, a lot of weather to talk about. So I do appreciate y'all sticking with me here. Make sure to subscribe to the channels. We'll have more detailed weather forecasts just like this every single day. Make sure to give the video a like by giving it a thumbs up down below. Leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. We'll get to those later on today, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their Friday out there.